East Burnham and Egypt. We're in Burnham and South Bucks, also going to visit Egypt. And we're also in the City of London because the City of London own Burnham Beeches. There's the cafe in the middle where we're going to start from today. This is 2 laps of 8.2 kilometres each, and we're starting off lap 1. We're only going to show 1 lap on this recording, but please note the dips and rises because they come in this little first section. So this is a preview of the Westerleigh VR races. That's Westerleigh CC's virtual races. This is a preview of the Burnham Beeches Burn Up, a 16-kilometre race, as I say, 2 laps of 8.2 kilometres each. Note the little undulations here because obviously you're going to do them twice over 2 laps, and they come in this first section. There's a couple of small little dips, and obviously you're going to go down before you go up. And one of the things I did seem to notice that these are little undulations that I hardly notice when I ride this road for real. But when I did it on RGT's Magic Roads, when I was going up, I felt it more than I ever would on an actual club ride out like this. So on this little section, this is a traffic-free pedestrian and cyclist little section going right through the heart of Burnham Beeches. Burnham Beeches is a massive wooded area. We'll talk a bit more about that later. You can see it's basically a nature reserve. But you can see that it's basically a woods, and one would suspect mainly predominantly beech trees. Now, we're going down one of those little dips here, and we're going to go up the other side, as you can see, as we go past these people. As I say, you hardly notice these with the momentum you have when you're out riding it. But I think you're going to notice those more on RGT than you would in real life. The main obstacle in real life is just people and their kids and dogs running a little bit wild. And of course, you do have to go over the cattle grids because there is wildlife in here that they don't want coming out. And in fact, some of the local farmers actually graze their cattle inside the beeches. This is the end. So we're just coming through those bollards and we're going to emerge out of there. So we're coming out of the City of London's property into County of Buckinghamshire's property, the road. I suspect all the other fields are privately owned. So as we go through here, everything on the right is Burnham Beeches, and you can see there the little green sign on your right, which is one of the signs telling you you're entering Burnham Beeches, the City of London's property. Everything on the left is rural Buckinghamshire farmland and houses. Now, this is the main dip that I think you're going to find the hardest, and this where you can probably split the pack. As you see, you go hurtling down this dip. Now, as I say, we don't particularly notice the first half of the dip, the rise afterwards. When we're riding this, you only sort of suddenly realise that you've got this sort of hard hill when you just sort of at the top and the momentum from hurtling down the dip has run out. On RGT, I think it's much more pronounced, and you're going to notice this climb more than we do. I have ridden it, of course, and that's my view. Those of you who are local and have ridden both, you can tell me again afterwards. Now then, as you go up this, I mean, it never gets to more than 6%. After this, there's nothing quite as hard. It undulates a little bit, and you do, as I say, notice the gradients, I think, a little bit more on RGT because you don't get the benefit of this rolling terrain, and you don't get the benefit of the momentum that the dips, going down the dips, builds up. So up to about now is where you're going to get the sort of kind of 3 or 4 little pronounced ramps, and you're going to have to keep your eyes open because I think that the main racers will know this. We tend to find with our Westerleigh CC virtual races that the top riders do have a look at the terrain, they do have a look at the profile of the course, and they work out where to attack. So I think the attacks will come either on lap 1, maybe just to split the field. And, if the bunches are still big on lap 2, that first section of the circuit is where I think the attacks will happen. Now, after that, we don't really have a lot to talk about in terms of how we can preview the race, the virtual race on RGT, because it's relatively flat. And even from a commentary point of view, There's not a lot to talk about because what you're going to see is lots and lots of Buckinghamshire countryside. It's very, very nice. You'll see here that we're still in the sort of wooded Burnham Beeches type scenery. It reminds me a lot of Magic Roads. Perhaps there's a lot more trees here than Magic Roads would have, and we certainly haven't got the rocks. Now, I don't think there are any rocks of note in Burnham Beeches, and I think the last time you might have seen rock is for sale in the fun fair that used to be where the cafe at the start is. In fact, there used to be a fun fair there, a nightclub and a bar, as I recall, and that's all been demolished, and now they've got a nice little wood cafe looking very eco-friendly and for the modern era. How things change. So as you can see here, the trees and the shade do help keep the road a little bit damp, which doesn't help the surface at all. It has rained during the week quite a lot. This was a Saturday ride after the rain. So it's little damp patches where it hasn't quite drained away. But largely along this section, and we're heading across the northern section of the Burnham Beeches. Actually, after this little section of this wooded area, we are actually going to go out into farmland and a few lanes. We have to sort of leave the vicinity of the beaches to get across to the main road from Gerrard's Cross to Slough, which we go on momentarily before turning back into the beaches via Egypt. Now, why it's called Egypt, I really don't know, but we shall have a look at Egypt when we get there. Now, Burnham Beeches is a nature reserve according to the City of London, the Corporation of London, and it does historically represent what the landscape of the whole region would have looked like. This was in the Middle Ages. This would have been a very, you can see the potholes have just knocked the GoPro down a little bit. I would like to say that it was a special production technique to let you see what the tarmac's like, but it was the potholes. And we pass another cyclist here. In fact, it's nice here because you do see cyclists. There's less out today than normal. It is a Saturday and not a Sunday. You'd see a lot more on a Sunday around here, but it's not overloaded with cyclists like some areas. But as I was saying, the whole region would have been wooded beech trees, probably in the Middle Ages. And that's why the furniture industry evolved in High Wycombe. There was a big furniture industry up there, and a lot of the beeches in the region were chopped down and used for making furniture. Any football fans will probably know that Wycombe Wanderers' nickname is the Chair Boys because of the furniture manufacturing. So, yes, the Burnham Beeches has sort of preserved what this part of England would have looked like in the Middle Ages. But we're leaving the beaches now. We're going into farmland. And you can see the road's still pretty rough around here. You won't feel any of that on RGT's Magic Roads, of course, because it's all virtual and smooth as you like it. Like I say, there's not too many cyclists out this particular day. It was a very windy day, actually, and it wasn't ideal, and it had been raining during the week. So I think it's fair to say that some people weren't sure whether to come out. But I'd expect to see a lot more cyclists on these roads than we are on this particular occasion. It is a nice cycling area, basically Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire, I suppose parts of Berkshire, all that sort of Thames Valley region and the Chilterns above it have some very, very nice cycling areas. But as I say, I quite like them because it's not overloaded with lycra. It's a pleasant mix. And I think if you have too many cyclists in an area, you do suffer from the motorists getting rather frustrated, which we suffer from a lot less around here. So nice cycling. And you can see the lanes are very, very nice to cycle, even if there's not a lot to talk about. Slow down for the horses, and I was thanked very much by the polite ladies riding them. So we speed up a little bit after we get through the slush and past the horses. It's a perennial hazard, of course. Horse riders share the lanes, and it's always best to call out when you're behind. Not really to alert the rider, but to alert the horse, because the horse can't see behind, and if you whiz past the horse, you will, risk startling it. Now, as I say, we're on the northern section here, and we're sort of heading in a northeasterly direction. We're out of Burnham Beeches, just into these lanes, and for too long we will hit the main road. Not quite yet, but we will hit the main road after a turn. And once we hit the main road, we'll be on that very, very shortly, and then we turn into Egypt and the home run. So you might want to monitor the tight bends, because they will give you the clues as to where you are on this circuit. Again, you can go on ride with GPS, and if you want to find, if you want to look at the circuits, we're just going right here, and this is the road that's going to take us across to the main road. Now, you can go on a ride with GPS, as I was saying, and you can look at the route so you can work out where the 90-degree bends are to give you a feel for where you are. Although obviously you'll have the distance on your screen during the virtual race. But on there, we do show the profile. And as I've said before, the main riders do look at the profile so they can work out where to attack. You can see it when you're in the races. They all know, and the pack gets split accordingly. So this bit I don't think will be too full of attacks. It's fairly flat. There's a few little twists and turns. But I think it's when we make that final turn into into Egypt Lane that everybody's going to start working out their strategy. As I say, I think most of the attacks ought to happen either on lap 1 or lap 2 in that first section after the cafe, round to that big dip after we leave the beaches. And there is one small incline just as you come out of Egypt, which I think will be the last chance. If you want to shake off whoever you're with, I think that's where you really want to attack. So there's a little incline out of Egypt, then you sort of turn right, and there's a couple of twists that take you back to the cafe. That's, I think, where if you still want to shake off whoever you're riding with, and whatever little group you've got, that will be the last chance. Throughout the course, it is undulating in a way that I think you notice more on RGT than you do when you're actually riding it. It's not, I think RGT replicates the climbs fairly enough, but if we just get so much momentum when we're riding a lot of this these undulating roads in this area, that we, just speed up the ramp at the other side too easily in real life. So, as I say, you'll probably notice the little small inclines more than we actually do. As I say, we're now getting closer and closer to the main road. It's the main road heading north-south between Gerrards Cross and Slough. One always assumes there'll be more traffic coming out of Slough than going into it, certainly on the weekend. It's an industrial town, and there's a lot of employment there, so people will be going in Monday to Friday, but people will be coming out on Saturdays and Sundays. And in fact, there used to be a little car stick you could buy that said, "Happiness is Slough in my rear view mirror." And that sold quite well around Slough. So Slough people have a humour about their town. It isn't always been blessed with the most glamorous of reputations, certainly since Sir John Betjeman wrote he's the poet laureate, the official, or was when he was alive, the official English poet, and I suppose British poet. I'm not sure, must be British, yes, British poet rather than English. And he wrote a poem called "Come Friendly Bombs Drop on Slough," and it's always been a little bit derided. If anybody watches The Office, whichever country you watch it in, the original series was set in Slough by Ricky Gervais, and it was pretty close to what I think a lot of offices in Slough are probably like. But as I say, if anybody is watching from Slough, by the way, I do have connections with Slough, so I would never say anything against it. I'm just sharing in that sort of self-deprecating humour that people from places like Slough and Wigan have. If you're from Wigan, I think the Facebook page Wigan Humour is excellent. Now then, here we are, finally, the promised land, and we're going to turn right into Egypt Lane, and you'll see the sign for Egypt just on your left there, and just in case you still can't see it, there's a little pop-up to show you what it says. It really does say Egypt, and we're about to turn into Egypt Lane. And just to prove it, there's the sign, Egypt Lane. It does exist, and it's in South Bucks. I'm not sure where Egypt starts and where it finishes, if I'm honest, because it is one village or hamlet that does not have a sign telling you you've arrived, and it doesn't have a sign telling you you're leaving. So my guess it is where there's a little cluster of houses that we're going to come up to shortly as we rejoin Burnham Beeches. So there's not a lot to see. There's certainly nothing replicating ancient Egypt. So I've no idea how Egypt ever got named Egypt. I'm sure there's some theories on Wikipedia, but I didn't research that before doing this commentary. I do recall being at school, and a rather enthusiastic history teacher asked the class if anybody had ever been to Egypt, and about 70% of the class stuck their hands up, and the history teacher got rather excited about this. So here we are, we're just entering Burnham Beeches again on Egypt Lane, City of London. So as I was saying, this teacher got rather excited that 70% of the class had actually visited Egypt, and we did let her be excited for a few minutes before confiding that it was this place that we were talking about, not the one on the Mediterranean. So as you can see, there's a cluster of rather nice, well-to-do houses in Egypt, and as I say, nothing reminds me of Egypt, and I can't see any reason why it would have been called Egypt, unless it had some old name that just got pronounced incorrectly. So so here we are. That's not the Nile. That's the only water we're going to cross here. So no pyramids, no sphinxes, no pharaohs, no Nile, but a bit of a puddle across the road. It's about as close as we're going to get to that. Now, as I say, as we leave Egypt, there is this last incline, and if you're doing the Magic Roads race, the Westerleigh VR race, number 11, Burnham Beeches Burn Up, this incline up to the entrance to Burnham Beeches is probably your last chance to shake off people around you, other than going for the full sprint when we turn right back into Burnham Beeches. So remember, Burnham Beeches is effectively to your right. I think the land on the left might be part of the beaches, but it doesn't go very far. The main beaches are on your right still. We're on the periphery of it, and the fact that there's houses built to the left suggests to me that it probably is private land, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we're certainly in the Burnham Beeches area, and we are probably gradually lifting up now on this last incline. It's gentle, it's not hard, but it's just there, and if you can find that extra bit of energy to leave your peers behind, you might get the advantage in the home straight. Now you can see that it is rising now, and this is the last little bit of it before we come up to the right-hand turn, which will take us into the beaches. And here we are. This is where it ends, and then you get this right-hander, and you'll see that the sign, that's the sign we showed you right at the beginning, that's on that corner. We turn right, and as we enter now, we are entering Burnham Beeches proper. Again, you can see the sign on your left, the City of London, and this is the sprint. So obviously there's no speed bumps on Magic Roads on RGT and the Westerleigh VR races, but this is the sprint. There's some minor little twists as you head for home, so you can't quite see the finishing line when you're doing this on RGT. It comes into view very, as you can see there, the road's sort of not quite straight, and it comes into view quite late when you actually ride it on the Magic Roads. But we're actually here. This is the last of the car parking. We're going to go around these two ladies and gradually pull up to the cafe where we first started. So that's it. There won't be coffee being served at the end of the Magic Roads RGT race, Westerleigh VR race 11, but we hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.